Hello, everyone. This is Sadia Zafar from HRAI, and I would like to welcome you to today's session on how to get more calls from your free Google business listing. Our guest speaker, David DeMeo of Robo Retail, will speak with our members about the advanced features available to HVAC contractors and their Google business listings. David has helped more than 50 local Ontario HVAC contractors get more calls from their Google business listing. Please be advised all the lines are muted. You will notice on the control panel of your screen a link to ask questions. You can ask questions at any time during the webinar. The questions will be addressed at the end of the session. Also note this webinar is being recorded and the recording will be sent to you following the session. Now we welcome David.
Thank you, Sadia. And as you've already mentioned, my name is David DeMeo from Robo Retail. Before we begin, I'm going to talk a little bit about our company, but I'm also going to mute myself or not mute myself, sorry. I'm just going to shut off my video because it'll distract me to see myself as I'm talking. Okay, and I promise I'll return as we get into the question and answers period. But I'm happy to be here today because now more than ever, marketing matters. And in order to run an effective marketing program, you need a team of smart, creative people who understand what it takes to find and attract prospective clients who are actively online looking for an HVAC contractor. As your partner, Robo Retail would provide you with the option to outsource your marketing to us so you can focus on the things that you do best, like selling and installing equipment. Perfect. Robo Retail provides professional marketing services specifically to the HVAC contractor. We're located in Ann Arbor, Michigan, but since I'm a co-founder and born and raised in Windsor, we also serve clients in Ontario. As Sadia mentioned, we have experience working with a number of HVAC contractors, but also their wholesalers and manufacturers, and many times we can identify opportunities to get them to subsidize the cost of your marketing, because in turn, they want you to sell more. So that brings us to today's presentation. There's a lot to running a successful service-based business. It's stressful and it's a complex system of finding, winning, and keeping happy and satisfied customers. Today, we're going to talk about how you can find more customers who are actively looking for the services you sell. As HVAC contractors, you know that there are two main categories involving the purchase of new equipment. Each has their own particulars. For instance, new construction, while being larger and but it also has longer sales cycles and lower margins due to competitive bidding. Ultimately, we see residential service and retrofit as a huge market opportunity, and digital can be quite effective to target this segment. Because unlike new construction, residential retrofit is often the result of a service call where the customer is very sensitive to time, and the sales process is measured in minutes and hours, not months. It's also kind of important to understand the audience that you're serving. And what's funny, or not funny, but was interesting to me is when I went through this data, is that the average age of a residential property owner is 41. I'm in that category. So unlike traditional advertising, right, which typically when you think about radio, TV, a newspaper ad, or even a billboard, that's meant to appeal to a broad audience. Digital works best when you can provide personal and convenient way for your customers to do business with you. But in order to do that, you need to understand how your customer shops for the products and services you sell. So what we tend to do is when we're looking at building a campaign, we build that around a customer persona, which is basically the information that we know about our customers that we service. So our 41-year-old belongs, when we'll call him Joey for the sake of this discussion, belongs to a demographic known as Generation X. He was born between 1961 and 1981, and he's between the ages of 38 and 58 years old. What's also, oops, went too fast there. What's also interesting about this demographic is that they spend a lot of time online and access the internet primarily through a mobile device. And they're also quite comfortable with shopping and purchasing products online. For the typical consumer, heating and cooling equipment is not something they often interact with. In fact, the brands that they associate with their system might not actually represent the equipment at all. I always say this whenever I'm in a client meeting or I'm meeting a new group of people that fit that target demographic, I try to slip in like, hey, we have some HVAC customers, and I was wondering if I can ask you some questions. Typically, they'll politely say, sure. And I'll say, do you mind telling me what was the manufacturer of the air conditioner or the furnace you have in your home? And many of them will answer Honeywell. I'm always surprised at that, right? They often don't know the name of their equipment. So what does that mean? Well, relying on the manufacturer to drive brand or to drive traffic to you is probably not the best approach. So let's take a look at what happens, again, focusing on the service call. What would Joey do if something were to go wrong with his equipment? And this is a very simplified customer journey, but it does illustrate some of the things or steps they might take to resolve their issue and where they might turn to find support. So for a customer who, goes on, and typically it's like on a hot day, it'll be 95, you turn on the air conditioner, it doesn't work. On a cold day, it's, you know, -5 and it's really cold and you're trying to turn on the furnace and it won't start. So you have the panic of time. And so you're really not interested in doing your due diligence and researching. You're looking for a quick fix. So you may look to see if you can fix it yourself, going to your owner's guide, or if it was a, troubleshooting thing that you learned before that worked, you might try that. You might even be inspired to look on YouTube and see if there's somebody who can walk you through a bit of a diagnostic check. But if none of those work, or if you're not inclined to help yourself, ultimately you're going to end up at Google and you're going to do a search. And I want to take a minute because it's something that's important that can't be understated. For search, Google is the big gorilla in the room. And in Canada, Google represents, I want to say it's either 91 or 92, so I apologize, I don't have that number memorized. But in any case, it's a big number. Over 90% of the search activity is done on top of Google, 90%. The next place is Bing with like 5%. And then everybody else is like fractions. And the reason why is because Google has become, for many of us, a trusted resource. It really doesn't matter what you ask for Google, it always can return hundreds of millions of responses in less than a second, which is incredible when you think about just the vast volume of information that's available at our fingertips. And I love this exercise because this is personal searches that I've done in my area. And ultimately, it just goes to show there is no lack of choice when it comes to contractors on the internet. And so another reason why customers go to Google is because we use them to help us narrow down that field. So obviously, we know that Google is going to give us a lot to choose from. But all being time sensitive, we want to get to the best choice. And so how does a customer decide who to contact when they're left with thousands of options? And so organically, we know this to be true as consumers because we tend to do this with other purchases. I will tell you, I have a client who expressed to me the comment that said, I use reviews every day for other products. I just never thought that it would be applicable to me in my business. And the fact is, reviews are applicable to every business, whether you're looking for vacation homes, purchasing a new vehicle, or appliance for your home, reviews matter. And basically, there is this chronological step that says, as a consumer, you're wondering, you're not going to go through this infinite list. You're going to go for your top 5. Who are the people that I'm going to want to reach out to? Because I guarantee you, within the top 5, you're going to find a suitable option. Then you're going to look to say, which one of those has the best reputation? Which one has the most reviews and the highest reviews? And then sometimes that's enough. That will get them to call you. But there is still some skepticism, and you want to validate that the company you're going to do business with is a professional and reputable business. So you're going to want to look to see and get a first impression of them on the internet. So your website drives their first impression. When they come to your website, they're going to want to know, is this a company that takes care of its business? Does it look like a big company? Does it look like a business that I want to do business with? Because if it doesn't, if it is, it looks like it's outdated and maybe the website has a bunch of broken links, or it visually has dates that are like from years before, and you're still running a promotion from 2015, I'm probably going to wonder about you as a business. Even setting all that aside, let's say you accomplish that hurdles and you get the customer now interested in your business. They want to talk to you. Again, thinking about the service mentality, it's a 95-degree day. I'm sweating. I want my air conditioner to work. I'm going to contact, and the first person to answer the phone wins. And I don't mean you have to come out to fix it right there and then, but I want to talk to a human. So if I reach out to you and you don't answer the call, I'm not going to leave a message and wait till you call me back. I'm not going to send an email and hope that you're going to get back to me. I'm likely going to go down the next list, take another contractor that's just as good potentially, and then try them. So, you know, think of this as a complex interaction of things, and failing at any one of these is basically going to result in that customer just moving to the next business. Now, this is a double-edged sword. In one way, it cuts, so you have to do a good job. But in another way, it also benefits you, because the amount of effort it'll take for you to stand out in a field of others that aren't doing basically anything, that aren't taking advantage of the opportunities that are available to them in digital, you will win. And so right now, it's a very interesting time because we are going through this major shift between the physical brick and mortar business and this online generation of business. And it's not for everybody. I recognize that. And but there is a percentage. But the challenge that you have to remember is that that percentage is growing. So as more younger consumers are coming into the market that are digital natives, they're accustomed to talking to their devices for everything, they're going to want this level of service. So in the long run, migrating and moving to be prepared for the future involves digital for sure. So I'm a visual learner, and so maybe some of you are as well. And so I use this to sort of describe the way that we see our businesses. I'm a small business owner myself, so it's applicable to any small business. But at the end of the day, my business lives and dies by the fact of getting customers to contact me. And so for an HVAC contractor, you're looking at the storefront with a phone. That's what you want. You want people to call you. And then you're going to sell them on products. And then you're going to install those products with quality and make sure the job's done right. Those customers are going to be satisfied, and they're going to become part of your loyal customer base. They're going to become that customer base that you rely on to continue for recommendations and referrals to their friends and families. It's kind of like a network effect. Then somewhere probably, I would say in the late 2000s, the internet, kind of really broke out, and people started saying, you needed a website, you need a website, you need a website, you need a website. And ultimately, there are some businesses that, unfortunately, that were built on the premise of you really weren't aware of what a website can do, but you needed a website. So they gave you the option that you could go to them, they would stand up a website, and you could mentally check the box that says, yep, I've done what my business needed to do. I've created a website. And you relied on people, and you thought of the website in the same way that you think about a billboard, on the side of the road. There's customers driving by it all day, every day on the internet. They're going to see my website because they're going to be looking at me. And when they need me, they're going to come and find me. Well, unfortunately, as you saw, that's not the reality of what happens today, right? With millions of things to choose from, people aren't looking for you. they're looking for the easy button. So how do you take advantage of that? And it is the topic of our conversation today. When we started and what this presentation said is about the Google My Business listing. This is a free product that Google made available to all retail businesses that you can then create for your business. And this is a great tool. This is probably one of the most underutilized tools because it allows you to incorporate reviews onto it. It allows you to add information about your business that will affect your search results in a positive way, and probably one of the most effective ways. And ultimately, what it can do for your business is it can now be a traffic cop, helping direct more people that are searching online to go to your website or to call your business directly. And what we typically see on almost all of our clients is about a 50-50 split. That when done properly, 50% of your impressions from your Google business listing will decide to call you or contact you directly. And then the other 50% will go to your website first to further validate you before deciding whether or not to call you. Once you kind of have that model in place and you know how to handle your online traffic, you can effectively measure and monitor the response that you're getting online. Now you have basically a process, right? You put eyeballs in on one side and you get phone calls in on the other. And if I know that I convert, that I can generate a certain amount of traffic at a certain percentage. So let's just say, hey, 2% of every audience that comes to my website decides to call me. Now I know as a function, if I can get more people to do that, I will inevitably get more calls. So Google Ads is a great multiplier in that way. Google Ads lets you buy keywords that affect your business and may be targeted specifically to customers who are in market for you. And there's strategies to do better at that. In fact, there's probably a whole other webinar on how you can optimize your Google Ads spend, which may be something to think about for a future podcast or a future webinar. And then you bring in social media or content marketing. And I want to point out that while you can run ads on social media, they're not the same as running search ads. When you run a search ad, you're dealing with a consumer who's actively searching to fix a problem. And that consumer, as we have already talked about, 90% of search is done on Google, will go to Google to find it. They go to their search engine. They tend to not choose Facebook to find a contractor when they need one. Now, that's not to say you should ignore social media. It certainly plays a part. And there's also a percentage of the population that depends on social networks to get referrals. There is a new platform called Nextdoor in my market as well as in Ontario. I use Nextdoor because I needed a carpenter to fix some siding outside my house on one of the big windows. I didn't have a recommendation. I never worked with a carpenter in my area. So I went into Nextdoor and I said, does anybody have a recommendation for a carpenter? I showed a picture of my bay window, which has some rotting wood that needs to get replaced. And one of my neighbors, who inevitably was one of my children's elementary school teachers, said, oh, I have the same house. And we called Midwest Construction. They did a great job. We really liked them. So guess what? I called Midwest Construction. So Facebook and social media networks can drive that kind of behavior, but the audience is much smaller than the audience of search. And so you have to sort of adjust your spending and allocate it based on your opportunity size. And then once you've sort of gotten this great system, there's another element of marketing in sort of thinking about it as a life cycle, right? It's drip marketing, constant contact. You want your customer to remember, oh, when I have a problem, I went to so-and-so. They did a great job and I like them. Guess what? If your equipment fails like every 5 years or 7 years or 10 years, like good equipment should fail, like, after a long period of time, you're likely not going to have that remember. Like, who was that guy that came that one time? It was really, they did good. They're not thinking like that. So email marketing is another great way, especially if you've been in business for a number of years and have built this big list, this big tribe of happy, satisfied customers. Now you can send them a simple email every quarter just to remind them, like, hey, now's a good time to change your filter. Now's a good time to change the battery in your smoke detectors. Now might be the time to adjust your duct because in a multi-level house, you want to adjust the duct to winter to adjust for seasonality, or turn on the humidifier. You're not selling something all the time. You're just sort of giving them advice, but you're doing that so that you become a trusted source, a trusted advisor. And the other thing is you want them to be able to recall your name when they want you. So I say all of this because marketing is not easy. Marketing is never one and done. Marketing is a full-time job, and is actually a focus of study that you can go on to university and get an advanced degree in. And certainly as we continue to go forward in a digital age, you can understand how technology like this is going to be highly personalized. I'm going to tell you a little story, not necessarily a story, but just something that sort of struck me as interesting. I noticed that we have Netflix at home, and probably like many of you, we've used Netflix more than we had before because we have no extracurricular activities that our kids can do and they're stuck at home. And Netflix allows us to have profiles. So I have a profile for myself, one for my wife, and one for my children. And it's interesting because I can go in, and based on whose profile, I get different recommendations for content. I can also tell when the kids have been watching on my channel because, like, there'll be some cartoon programming that gets in, or there'll be a mermaid series that gets slipped into my account. So I know that's because they've been using set-top boxes that are programmed to my account, and their content is influencing what's being offered to me. And so I tell you this because it's in our everyday life. It may not be obvious to all of us, but every activity that you're taking, all the interactions that you're having through your phone and through your TV is all being measured and sort of being used to drive more personalization to you, and sort of driving this economic engine. Okay, so I'll get off my soapbox. I just wanted to tell you that. And I will focus on the content today, which is your Google business listing, as promised. And as I've already stated, by far the best tool in your toolkit. And it's a great thing. Many people don't realize what your Google business listing can do for you. I already told you it helps with Google search engine optimization. And we'll go further and I'll show you how you can affect that. But just think about that. I mean, we sell it, and it can be anywhere from, $500 to $5,000 a month spent on doing search engine optimization, whether that's blog articles or content to try to drive consumers to find you organically. Here's a tool that is available to you that you can do yourself. You don't need to pay somebody like Robo Retail. You can do it yourself. Location information. Your Google business listing is the best hyper local search tool that you can have, and we'll show you how that works. I've already said reviews matter, right? Having 100 5-star reviews will drive consumer behavior over your competitors who might have a handful of reviews, or worse yet, a lower review. But it's not just the number that matters. Consumers and Google, so I will want to stress that, Google will also read the data inside the reviews. And when people will add comments to your reviews, will influence your scoring. So if I have customers who identify the service that they got from me by saying, oh, great, Mike came to the house, I got reliable service, they fixed my air conditioner, it was great. That is a customer sentiment that Google uses. So on a customer search term that's been matched to air conditioning, you now have a positive proof point from an authentic customer who is giving you a 5-star rating on air conditioning. I tell you that because this is how some of it all gets worked. And it happens in like nanoseconds because there's extensive computers that are all running algorithms to drive this kind of behavior. So that's why reviews matter. You can also add custom services. So Google does a great job at categorizing your business and offering some default services that are normal for your business category. But if you offer custom services that are unique to you, you have the ability through your Google business listing to not only add those, but add descriptions around them, which again, introduces more SEO. You can create custom catalogs. So if you sell filters, for instance, you can add filters as a product to your Google business listing and customers can see that. The other thing that I would say is worth a million, it's worth its weight in gold is images. And I'll show you why images play an important role in the customer behavior. But Google Business Listing allows you, as well as other customers and the general public, to add images to your Google Business Listing. So I wanted you to be aware of that. And then there's special tools that they offer, so you can do posts within your listing. You can provide special offers within listings. You can also turn on instant messaging. So right from your listing, your customer can ask you a question or ask for a quote. And that's all real time, right? To meet that, can I get a contact today? So that's them on their phone being able to message you on your phone, and you can talk to them in real time. Pretty cool. Okay, so why does search matter? Well, this is a search that I've run, so it's a screenshot from my mobile device. Again, you have to put yourself in the shoes of your customer. So this is a Generation X consumer who typically uses their mobile device to access the internet, and when they need something, they're going to type it into Google. And this is a typical Google result that you might see. Now, because I'm based in Michigan, I wanted to pick a place in Ontario, so I chose Hamilton. So I had to enter that in. Typically, a consumer wouldn't enter in the location. They would just say broken furnace or furnace repair or ideally HVAC contractor. And Google uses your device and the GPS that's installed in the device where it knows where it is to determine the businesses that are local to you. So what would typically show up on a mobile device is what you see here, and it's map based. So it's very geographical positioned. And so you get the businesses that Google knows about that are closest to your location. Google also does a couple of other things related to how results are shown. What you can see, and I hope everyone can see the screen fairly well. I know it's maybe small for some of you. There's a little indication that says add on one of those listings. That's a Google search ad. That means Express Heating and Cooling has paid for the word furnace inside of Hamilton, and it's being shown as a result. So those are paid results. So they get first choice, but Google doesn't let they only will choose one or two that get shown because they don't want it to be, they want to diminish the value that consumers get to search, because if you're not getting good organic search, you won't use Google and then Google lose all its revenue. So they're also careful not to kill their golden goose. The next set of responses is your Google My Business listing. So in this case, if your business doesn't have a Google business listing, for all intent and purposes, for this consumer that is online looking for a contractor, your business simply doesn't exist. It won't be found, right? And then as you scroll down and you get past this list, you then have the organic search, the website stuff that you might have that drives to your website and could cause somebody to look further into your website. So this is why I say that this Google business listing, Google is not only providing tools, but it's also influencing consumer behavior and driving consumers to use search, obviously in a way that benefits Google, but also changes the entire way that consumers engage with customer or contractors online. The other thing to notice is that our data, and we have a number of clients, both in Ontario and Michigan and Ohio, is when you look at the data, we see about, on average, there's about 5,000 monthly searches for an HVAC related term. So every month, regardless of where you are in Ontario, there's likely a population of 5,000 that might be addressable to your business. And I've said before about first impressions matter online. So I'm going to go back. I apologize. You're a consumer and you're looking at the choices available to you. And say you weren't a heating contractor, say you were looking for a different product that you don't sell, and you put yourself in the consumer's choice. You have these options available to you. Who's your instinctively, where are you going to click to find out more about? Personally, myself, Boonstra seems to be an outstanding option. They have 915 reviews, as indicated by that number that's in brackets next to their rating, and they have a 4.6 rating. That means 915 people have left a review for this company. And overall, we know there's going to be some minor whiners. There's going to be people that got a bone to pick and didn't like the fact that you charged them a 24-hour or emergency service fee or whatever it is that they got a reason to complain about. But overall, their rating is 4.6. That's invaluable social proof that says 900 people can't be wrong, can they? And so I'm going to want to put them in my short list. Now, depending on the urgency and my familiarity, maybe I've seen Boonstra on Facebook pages and I've gotten some other material. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, Boonstra, I know them. I'm going to call them right up. And that's great, right? There's like 50% of that population that I told you that would hit the call button and automatically call you. There's another 50% that says, well, I like them, but I've never done business with them and I want to see what they have to say. So you would click on that listing, you'd click on their name, and then Google would show you their Google business listing. And this is why I say that visual component, we'll talk about how you change the picture, but the cover that's shown is also very important. If left to itself, Google will decide on what your cover photo is. And they don't typically do a great job at interpreting what's inside of an image and whether or not it's the best image to represent your business. So you could be left with a map of your location. You could be left with, I don't know, maybe your logo, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but it doesn't drive the empathy of professionalism that you could if you had, let's say, a diverse set of employees standing behind a truck, all wearing clean and crisp uniforms. You go, wow, that's a pretty big company. Maybe I want to call them because I'm going to get decent service from them. You're sort of setting up the expectation visually, as well as benefiting from the social reputation that you get from your reviews, and those combined will drive more customer confidence. And again, on average, when we tend to work with our clients, what we expect is that anywhere between 5 to 10% of that traffic will decide to engage you. So not every impression is going to want to talk to you. Not every impression is right for whatever reason. But we tend to say it's about 5 to 10%. So if you're doing 5,000 monthly impressions, which by the way would be a great number, right? I'm not saying you would always going to get there, but let's say you could get 5,000 impressions. 5% of that is 250 interactions, of which about 125 will go to your website to decide whether or not to call you, and another 125 should call you directly right from your listing. Those are real dollars and cents that you're totally in control of. You can do this yourself. We're going to talk about that. So rubber meets the road, I guess, here. So this is the back of a Google business listing. So when you log in to your Google business listing, you'll see something that looks similar to this. And so on your left-hand side, you see a bunch of choices: home, posts, info, insight, review, and you can turn on messaging there. I'm going to walk you through some of the things that you can do yourself, for your business, using this Google Business Listing. So the first thing I recommend is going to the photo section up here on the lower left-hand side. It says photos. Now you're looking at my company's Google Business Listing, and unfortunately we don't have a good cover. So we haven't eaten or chosen to take our own medicine, only because I don't have a good cover for a digital agency. Maybe it's just a team shot, right, of our group of people. But we haven't decided what the right cover for our company is. But we do have a logo. You can also add interior shots. So you can add, if you have a showroom, you can add pictures of your showroom, which is great value. If you have if you're the type of business that does work on location, Google will give you other options. So you can, at work, so you can take work shots of completed work, before and after pictures. Team photos, so you can designate them as team, and they could be of your employees in various moments of work, as well as exterior shots. So you say you have a storefront and you want to show pictures of your storefront so people can see what your business looks like as they approach it. Spending a minute and just finding a good picture that represents your brand, your company, and the type of people that work for you and the type of jobs that you do is going to pay big dividends. This is, again, something you can do yourself. You just push the big plus button and it pops up. Upload the picture from your computer, tell Google how you want to classify it, and you're done. The next important part of your Google Business Listing that you can do for yourself is you can make sure that Google understands the types of categories that you serve. And so Google has two types of categories: a primary category, and for all of you, it should be HVAC contractor. That should be your primary category. What Google does is Google does all the heavy lifting. So Google will translate when a customer says, I have a busted furnace, it will interpret the context of that search query and say, this customer is looking for an HVAC contractor. Who are the HVAC contractors I should be presenting back to this consumer based on a bunch of factors that Google holds as a secret, right? It's like Kentucky Fried Chicken secret recipe. They don't share it with anybody. They don't explain how the algorithm works. Just a lot of people that are building up the community that are sort of learning through trial and error what works and what doesn't. So this is one of those factors which can help you find and match your business with more relevant search queries. The other is the secondary categories. Secondary categories are great because maybe not everything you do fits inside of the bucket that we call HVAC contractor. So if you sell fireplaces and you have a fireplace showroom, why not add fireplace shop? Google recognizes it as a category. So by attaching it to your business, you're telling Google that when someone is searching for a fireplace in my market, that I'm a retailer that they can choose from for their product or service. So some of the normal categories that when we're working with our clients, we go through and we'll ask them, do you do plumbing? Do you do electrical? Are you a gas fitter? All of these options, if they're applicable to you, can be added as a secondary category. The next one I would recommend you look at is dealing with your service area. And what's interesting is when they say, you know, well, why do I have to, I don't understand, why do I have to know what a service area is? You know, I want to attract as much attention as I can. Google looks at everything. So Google is measuring how many times it presented your business to a consumer on search. Then it goes to track what is that consumer doing when presented with your information. And based on whether or not a customer chooses to engage with you by either contacting you or checking out your website, can actually negatively impact your score. So this is another one of those double-edged swords. You may think, well, I want all of Ontario. I don't care. Let them call me. I want to deal with them. Well, the problem is, yeah, that might work for a little bit, but then Google catches on and says, you know what? This one business listing doesn't do very well. Every time we show them, people bounce or they abandon or they don't click. And so Google you'll actually hurt Google in helping them find your local customers. So take a minute and sort of define the market areas that you're willing to go to and focus on that area. It'll benefit you more. The next thing we'd focus on, we talked about each one of those services. So if let's say you selected HVAC contractor, and Google provides you a set of default services that are applicable against an HVAC contractor. You can also add your own custom services. And these also allow you to add service descriptions. So now I can have whole house dehumidifier as a service. I can also add context about the dehumidifier, and I add context thinking about it as if I were writing an SEO copy or search engine optimization copy. I want to add words to the service description that will help Google match me to more customers who are looking to improve the comfort of their home with a dehumidifier. Or how does a dehumidifier work? I can't say dehumidifier for some reason today. But all of those consumer drivers shape and influence the type of description I'm writing. I'm also going to suggest, where possible, is to add pricing. And for many, this is counterintuitive. People say, call me. It's hard to do pricing because, you never know what a job's going to cost you until you go and quote it. And what if there's old equipment or there's, blockage in the wall and now I got to run new ductwork or, yes, we know that all those things present a challenge with providing a quote, and they're difficult. So I'm not saying you have to provide a price for everything, but Google does allow you to say things like free, fixed, or from. So if you have a starting point for a price and you're able to say, well, you can install a whole house dehumidifier from, pick a price, $8.99. Right away, see, it's the psychology of the behavior of consumers. You've sort of established the price for every other person to compete with you. When you're that consumer and you're like, oh my God, here's this company. They have a great 5-star rating. They're professional. They install dehumidifiers and they start at $800. Yeah, I could spend that. Let me call them. These are all factors that help you stand out from your competition who likely aren't doing any of this. The other thing, as I said, you can do product catalogs. So the product catalog is a great opportunity because it allows you to then also tie your business with brand names. So Armstrong Air is one of the manufacturers that we represent. We help their contractors with digital marketing. And so we've installed this Comfort Sync Ultra Smart thermostat. Now, it lets customers know that they can get a smart thermostat from you, but it also helps a customer who says, where do I find a Comfort Sync? Or what is Comfort Sync? I heard about Comfort Sync. Where can I find Comfort Sync in my market? So now you're also attracting customers to brands, which might be driving some traffic. Again, these are all different segments of population. They're all different types of traffic, but collectively, they all play their role in piece by piece building you a very big audience to which you can drive 5 to 10% conversion rate, right? Same thing here. Every product can establish a price. It's optional. You don't have to provide any pricing. You don't have to if you don't want to. You can certainly put price description, and you can create links to dedicated pages on your website where you talk about that product or service. Great opportunity. Next thing I want to talk about is your requests for reviews. So if I know I'm throwing a lot at you today. I know there's a lot of stuff to contemplate. And if you remember nothing else, I want you to remember two things. One, pictures are a great way to drive a good first impression, and reviews. And inside of your Google business listing, you can generate a review link, which is what you see in front of you. Now I've obscured the name of the business. Your business would typically be inside of these two slashes. And what happens is you can take that link, and if you share it with a customer, it will deep link them right to your review site. So one of the things that we tend to share with our clients that we're working with is saying, hey, a good way to get more reviews from your customers is just to instruct your technicians. Whenever they're done a job, customers have that euphoric moment. They're happy and satisfied with you, right? You've just fixed a problem with them. You're the greatest thing that has walked on water, basically. And now that's a great time, just as you're wrapping up that sale, say, hey, would you mind if leaving us a 5-star review with Google? Normally they're going to say, even if politely, saying, yeah, sure, no problem. Say, you know what? Let me make it super easy for you. I can text you a link. It'll drop you right to it. You just have to hit 5-star and you're done. Does that work for you? Sure. Customer receives that link on their device. They click that link, and what they get is they get taken right to your website, right to your Google business listing, right to the section where they are able to provide a 5-star rating and fill out some details if they want. But if they want to keep it simple, they can just boom, hit that 5-star, hit post. It's kind of hard to see because it's grayed out until you actually provide a review, but you just have to hit that, hit post, and you're done. That easy for them. So there are other techniques that you can use to get more reviews, whether that's through your electronic invoicing system, through email, through messaging. There are other techniques, but this is one that's like very simple, easy to do. It's in the moment and has great results in turn rate. So I can talk forever. My problem is I usually never run out of things to say. But that brings us to the conclusion of our topics today. I want to leave some time for some questions and answers. I also wanted to put out as an offer for any HRAI member who's attended our webinar today and is interested in sort of figuring out how to do this for yourself. We'll offer you a free consultation, so you can reach out to any of those means of communication you see available to you, whether it's phone number, email, or visit us on our website. And then just let us know that you attended an HRAI session, and we'll give you an hour of our time and walk you through your Google business listing and show you how you can make the changes I discussed today. All right, with that, I think we have about 10 minutes for questions and answers. So
Thank you,
Sadia,
David.
yeah, there you go.
We have a couple of questions. One question just came in. Does a customer have to have a Google account, as in Gmail, to leave a GMB review?
There we go, hi. That's a great question. And in fact, that is true. A customer must have a Google account in order to leave a Google review. Google does that because they prevent any anonymous reviews. You have to have a Google review. It's kind of like You also have to have a Facebook account to leave a recommendation on Facebook. All of these are driving. I will also tell you that um, in Canada and in North America, on the online population is representative of search. So if you're using an Android phone for your mobile device, or you use Chrome browser or a Chromebook for your kids for school, you have a Google account. Those are created as soon as you turn on those devices. You may not realize it. You may not have explicitly been told that you have a Gmail account, but essentially, once you use any Google product, whether that's registering with YouTube, registering with Chrome, using an Android device, any of those products, you have a Gmail and a Google account, and you'll use that account when you leave a review.
Okay, next question. So, David, you did mention Facebook earlier in your presentation. So, which is better, Facebook recommendation or Google reviews?
Another great question. Again, those are two different social media platforms. A Google Facebook recommendations are good, but I like the recommendations that you get from Facebook when it's somebody who's reaching out to a local group and asking that local group, hey, does anybody know a good HVAC or furnace guy? Right? And then the people that are part of that group respond in the one-to-one personal recommendation. Getting like your Facebook page and it says, 10 people recommend this business for HVAC, it's not as effective when you are looking on search. Now, I will tell you, Google, in being always evolving, will bring in your Google reviews as well as your Facebook reviews if it can find them. So if you do get recommended on Facebook, Google can add it to your to the reviews it shows, but it always shows, like when you saw that consolidated view on mobile device, and we were looking at Boonstraw heating and cooling, and it had 900. Those are 952 Google reviews. It's only after you click onto the larger business listing, then you can see the other reviews. So Google gives more importance to the reviews it captures in its own network than the other reviews it gets from third-party networks.
Speaking of reviews, can I delete a review if I don't like it?
I would say this is probably something that we get asked, gosh, 20% of the time, right off the bat. In fact, there's some people that like, I don't want a Google business review, um, which leads me to another question. But first, I'll take that one. First of all, Google, you can't prevent Google from creating a listing of your business. In fact, anybody that goes online and is a Google reviewer, if they interact with you, they have the option of going online, adding your business to the Google network and giving you a poor review. And even though you didn't create the account, that review is attached to your business and somebody else created it. So, choosing to ignore Google business listing is not an option either, because it lets the wide, general public control your voice and sort of influence how consumers see you online. So there's a cautionary tale there. Now, to the question that was originally asked, which was, what do I do with a poor review? Unfortunately, we've worked with Google on a number of poor reviews. There are guidelines which say a review can't be defamatory, can't be abusive, can't use foul language. Can't be like, oh, these guys are effing crooks, right? That's an easy one to get Google a review because it's inflammatory, it uses vulgar language, it doesn't conform to its rules and regulations. Could also be, another example would be one where you have a former employee who's bitching about it. Oh, I used to work at those guys. They're nothing but a bunch of crooks. That's another one that you can get flagged from Google and have Google remove them for non-compliance to their standards. But if you have a legitimate customer who doesn't break any of the rules and just says, I had so and so come out and they quoted me 4 times what the next guy did, I would never use them. You can't control that. Google will not let you take that away. Google will not let you remove them simply because you were more than the other guy, or maybe the other guy didn't have a TSSA license or wasn't a real, contractor, or whatever the reason, right? That Google doesn't care about that. So your options then to address that head on. So, and maybe this was more than the person who asked the question expected, but if you do get those types of reviews, we always recommend answering it, but not to answer it so that you're going to create a flame war on reviews. You're not going to win an argument on a review, okay? So don't try to win the argument. Just let people know, because you're not necessarily trying to help that customer. You're just trying to show a new potential customer that looks at a review, sees that one customer had a negative review, that you read it and that it matters to you.
Mhm.
And by addressing it, you're encouraging that customer that you read your reviews, that quality matters, that a satisfied customer matters, and that in turn helps. The other thing is basically, like I said, you're always going to have whiners, and the more you can get reviews through positive, satisfied customers, the lower that lower review gets. And so you can bury that poor review with, 10 more good reviews.
Okay, great. I think we have time for one more question. How often should I update my Google listing to keep it relevant and keep it at the top of the list?
Oh, oh my gosh, I love that question. I wish obviously, as I said, Google keeps the algorithms that it uses to sort of decide who gets shown in what order a total secret. Nobody really knows. And don't let anybody convince you that they have the secret formula, even if they worked at Google. They still wouldn't know, um, because it's constantly evolving. They actually use artificial intelligence that's being applied to the algorithms to continuously make it a learning system. So it's always evolving, which is a scary thought in and of itself. Now, how often should I change, which was the original question. The issue is that think of freshness as a factor that influences your search results. So Google is not only tracking your information that you've given it and you've provided originally, it's also measuring what customers do when presented the information of your site, and it's measuring how often you're adding content or changing the site or making modifications. And all three of those factors influence your search ranking. So I'm not going to say you have to do it every day. You don't have to change your Google business listing every day. And I would say a good target for you is to try to get 3 to 4 reviews um, a month as a minimum, right? So a good target says I should be able to get 4 customers leaving a 5 review every month, and I should be able to put 1 job picture a week, and I may want to run a promotional offer once a month, and and then I'll adjust everything else by season or what's needed. So again, nothing in digital is a one and done type of deal. Everything requires care and attention, and the more time and energy you invest on it, the greater your returns are on the result side.
Okay, great. I did say that was my last question, but another one trickled in. So this is going to be the last one. And please note, if there's any additional questions, we will address them via email after the session. So one last question is, my business says it's claimed by my website builder. That's what they think. I have the username and password, but Google says it can't verify me. I wanted to take back ownership so I can update it. What to do now?
Yeah, there's a bunch of those, like what to do with orphan or duplicate or other types of business listings. So I'm going to answer that question. But before I do, if anybody has questions, again, on the screen, you see my contact information. Feel free, reach out to me, take any one of those options, call me, email me, visit our website. I'm happy to answer your questions. Now, in terms of how do you regain a website that is not under your control, there is a process that Google allows you to take, and it involves officially requesting access to that listing, which then Google federates. Like, they're the ones that mediate between you and the what who it thinks is the real owner, and there's back and forth, and then ultimately it typically times out. I believe it's 7 to 10 days, depending on how responsive Google is. If your request to take over the site is denied or ignored, you have the ability to escalate to Google and generate what is called another proof of ownership. And it is a verification process in which Google will physically mail a postcard to the address that has a 5 or 6 digit alphanumeric code attached to it. It typically takes 7 to 10 days for the mail to get to you. But then once you receive the mail, then you can log back into the system and use the code to take over ownership, because you can prove to Google that you have control of the physical presence of the business, and you can take it back that way. And if you need help with that, let me know. I'm happy to help you out.
Okay, that's helpful information. Thank you, David. So, everyone, this ends our presentation for today. I hope our members found this informative. Please complete the evaluation survey that will appear on your screen at the end of the webinar. And with that, have
Five
a great
stars.
afternoon,
Five
everyone.
stars.
And thanks again, David.
All right. Bye, guys.